Tēnā tātou katoa, kua tai mai nei tēnei rā, tēnā koutou. Ko Ngāti Maniapoto te iwi, no Aotearoa me Waitakere ahau, ko sama rangi Māori e Wright tōku ingoa. So, as Dave just said, I hail from Aotearoa, but I grew up in the Auckland region. And I've been involved in planning this hui, and I'm also an executive member of Aotearoa, the New Zealand Climate and Health Council, who is a partner with this conference. And I'm also a part of Te Ara Whatu, which is the Māori and Pacific Climate Justice group that Indy co-founded and which you mentioned yesterday. And I also recently finished studying to be a dietitian, and I'm at the start of a research career as a PhD candidate in food technology at Massey University. So it's been a real pleasure to spend time with you over the last 2 days and hear from such a diverse range of very committed and inspiring people. So I guess just a little bit more about why I'm standing here. I first became interested in climate activism through learning about food systems as a teenager. And I saw that a lot of the issues present in food systems come about from the same conditions that have created climate change, namely histories of colonization that Reese just talked about. So one day, a couple of years ago, I was feeling pretty hyped up, and I got an email from Aotearoa calling for nominations to their board. So in a bold moment, I emailed Reese, and he offered to nominate me, and he actually did. And so I ended up on this board feeling like a bit of an idiot and having no idea what to do. But I was really relieved that everyone there welcomed me with really open arms as I stumbled in. And I think there's a really nurturing environment in climate activism within Aotearoa and within a lot of other organisations, and this reflects a really general disposition of us to be empathetic and passionate about those around us. And so thank you, Reese, and to everyone else who has been involved in Aotearoa and beyond for all the amazing work you do. I'd also like to take a second to acknowledge the quiet but dedicated group who organised this hui. I'm amazed at what a small group of volunteers can achieve, so thank you David A., David G., Dagan, Matt, Debbie, Victoria, Carol, Annette, Bridget, and Faith for holding this all together. Yeah. And so these people asked me to give a little kōrero to close us off from a young researcher's perspective. I went, no, but it came out as a yes. And so then after I'd agreed, they nudged me to be hopeful and inspiring. And initially I thought this was going to be really difficult for me to embody a sense of hope, because in the work that we do, it often feels like we're trudging up this incline that seems to be getting steeper. And as someone who was born well into the Anthropocene in the late 90s, it's really easy to give in to visions of doom. And I'm someone who has been compelled by rage and a deep sense of injustice. But thankfully, I'm not just a ball of anger, but it's also love that drives me. Love and a sense of duty to protect life and health and earth. And it's really obvious that many of you here are also driven by love. It's evident in the way that you've communicated your mahi and the various ways that you stay committed to protecting health in Aotearoa and the world. So, being here with you in Te Upoko o Te Ika Māui and with those in Tamaki and Ōtautahi, these last 2 days have been really hopeful and have really instilled me with a greater sense of hope for the future. And I'm sure that we'll all come away after this with our keep cups filled up with a renewed sense of optimism for the future. And so we've had a pretty thorough mix of perspectives. Indy started us off very strongly, and I love what they said about collective liberation as a pathway to an equitable future. And I'd also like to add a layer to that, and I know Indy already knows this as well. We aren't just striving for liberation across different groups of humans, but we can also liberate rivers, ecosystems, and animals from those same oppressive systems. And this is pretty clear when we consider food systems, which I'm primarily interested in, and the range of actors across them. Those industrialized food systems are pretty recent phenomena, but they contribute greatly to climate change. They're very violent towards animals and the environment, and they also create and perpetuate health inequities. So solving these crises will require an intersectional, decolonisation and collective liberation approach. And as Christina and Bruce said yesterday, there are nutrition inequities stemming from food systems. But also because of the interconnectedness of these issues, there's actually a huge opportunity to create co-benefits to health and the environment when you approach it from the right angles. Transforming food systems to those that prioritise justice will result in food that is low in emissions, regenerates the environment, and is therefore healthier. And this is the same across transport, healthcare, and all the other areas that you're working in. And so I also appreciate what Rick Lomax said yesterday about focusing on public health as not only a way to reduce the burden on health systems, but also a pathway to fix the systemic failures to create co-benefits to health. And also, we heard today that health should be a key driver, not just a benefit. And so also thinking about those systems level perspectives, I liked what Graham Benoit-Cameron shared about whakapapa, the way we position ourselves in relation to the environment, the natural world. Humans shouldn't see themselves as being above it, but rather we should strive to be students or teina of the environment, observe atua, and act accordingly, and in that way we can enact kaitiakitanga. So, kua tai mai te tauhou Māori, Matariki is rising, the Māori New Year is nearly here. It's a time for mourning those we've lost, but also for celebrating what lies ahead. It can be a time for imagination. So I'd like to reiterate Indi's wero, their challenge to us all, to imagine the most beautiful future possible. And as Caroline also said yesterday, imagination is a gap between status quo and a different future. So whatever your future looks like, write it down, do some drawing, say it out loud, start a riot maybe, but also be open to new ways of thinking, maybe something you haven't thought of before will come to you, or even some new ideas you got at this conference. And we, like Reece said, we need to imagine all possible futures. And if you're really averse to dreaming, do it anyway, but maybe you can break it down into those manageable rainbow chunks like how Paul showed us yesterday. And also don't forget that Bianca Elkington from Ngāti Toa stepped onto the bridge and extended an invitation to everyone here to learn about meaningful engagement with Māori. There's also a new petition called No New Fossil Fuel Permits or Expansions in Aotearoa that I was asked to share here, so you can Google and sign that. And so I'm going to leave you with a whakatauki or a proverb, and that's Mā mua ka kitea muri, mā muri ka ora mua. Those who lead give sight to those who follow, and those who follow give life to those who lead. So this whakatauki is about the importance of working together and also speaks to intergenerational collaboration. So I hope that you'll also come away from this with a renewed hopefulness. The challenges ahead are pretty serious. The stakes could not be higher, but let's go forward together in rage, love, whatever else, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing really great. So, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.